We're in Siman Shin Yud Chet, 318. And our topic for today is, can you make tea on Shabbat? Or what's the best way to make tea on Shabbat? It's a very relevant topic for this weather. And, and we aren't going to learn exactly in the order of the Shulchan Aruch. We're going to move a bit. So we'll start from Sa'if Tet, 9, and then we'll move to Daled, Shin Yud Chet, yeah. Shin Yud Chet, 318. Okay, so move from 9, and then we'll move to 5, and then to 4. So that's our goal. So what topics do you think? What do you say? Kli Sheni. Okay, Kli Sheni. Maybe Kli Shlishi. Okay, so I'll start with a story first. Before we go to Kli Rishon, Kli Sheni, Kli Shlishi, I'll start with a story. Maybe about almost 20 years ago, I was in some settlement. I guess it was about this time of the year, because it was cold outside. It was a winter Shabbat, and there were soldiers guarding the settlement. So I made a cup of tea. Me and my friend, we were two friends at the settlement. We made a cup of tea, right? And we went to bring it to the soldiers. So we made it in the paper cups, a cup of tea, and it was dark outside, winter dark outside, wasn't so much light. I tripped over, and the tea spilled on my knee, more or less on my pants. But it's Kli Shlishi, nothing will happen. And for the short time afterwards, nothing happened. But afterwards, I saw that I had a burn. I think, how do you call it? A level 2. Yeah, I had a level 2 burn from a
second degree burn
burn from a Kli Shlishi. Okay, I made the tea with a Kli Shlishi, and I got a second degree burn. Now, part of the reason was when you have hot water pouring on pans or clothes, the first thing you do is separate, remove it away from the skin, because it's hot. So it's a source of heat, which was touching my body for a few seconds. And I didn't remove it right away. I waited a few seconds. I had a cup of tea in my hand, which still had some tea inside. I couldn't move it right away. But I had a second degree burn. It took a long time for it to heal. It puffed up, and second degree burn from a Kli Shlishi. Now, we should say that the Kli Shlishi of today is a bit different than the Kli Shlishi of the past. Why? That's a paper cup. How much temperature difference, or what's the difference we get from moving one paper cup to another paper cup?
Very little.
Very little. In the past, when you have a clay, which is a thick, how do you call it? Clay, thick clay. I guess the clay had quite a big difference in the temperature between the clay and the tea or hot water, whatever it is, and it's quite thick. So you have quite a large mass.
It might have absorbed some of the heat.
Yeah, it absorbs some of the heat. So that's quite a big difference, right? We bought new mugs, and my wife said, these mugs are good mugs. They keep the heat. Yeah, they keep the heat. And I looked at them and said, no, they don't keep the heat. They are thin. So what do? They don't cool down the tea. Yeah, so that's why the tea stays warm, because it doesn't cool down by a thick layer of clay or glass or whatever, right? So that brings us to the first topic will be Kli Rishon, Kli Sheni, Kli Shlishi. Okay, and then the second topic we will have before we get to tea is there do we go only by the source of heat, or does it also depend on the food we cook or we use? For example, if I put a piece of meat inside the Kli Sheni, I guess it doesn't cook too much, right? But what happens if I take salted fish, which just needs now a very short cook? Okay, if I take a scrambled egg and scramble it into a Kli Sheni, will that cook or no? So the first topic is about the Kli, okay, the cups, the mugs, and the second is about the food. And then we have a small topic in the middle, and then we'll go to tea. Okay, so after that, we're having a tea party for all the British. No British people here? You're British?
Originally.
Yeah. Okay.
British is like With a Welcher.
Well, okay. Where are you
I
from?
only drink Earl Grey tea.
Earl Grey. Earl Grey is quite a nice tea. With milk or without milk?
Huh?
With or without milk?
Oh, what is it? Without, yeah.
Without
But
milk?
English tea has milk because it's so strong.
Earl Grey is great. You should try it once. Earl Grey with milk.
With milk.
Yeah, Earl Grey with milk. Yeah.
Hereditary.
That's for the Americans you won't appreciate. Okay. Yeah.
Plus, you haven't mentioned Yatzalet.
Yeah, so Red Bull, right? That's maybe part of the klishani, Klirishon klishani. Okay. So let's go into the Shulchan Aruch, Shin Yud Chet in Seif Tet. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Klirishon. What's the definition of Klirishon? It was on the fire. It's on the fire now, or the same pot, the same container that was on the fire. Could be moved it as long as it is Yad Soledet. Okay, so as long as it's Yad Soledet, the same container that was on the fire. Even if you moved it, it cooks. Okay, it cooks. Therefore, you can't put inside spices. Okay, for example, tea, if it's a spice. Salt is something else. We won't talk about salt. Okay. And
It's interesting in Israel when you talk about tea also because along the tea they sell all those like fruity mixtures to put in your hot water, like in the shuk.
to like to make like tea kinds of things, yeah.
Tea. It doesn't necessarily have to be tea, but they have those fruit
Yeah.
pieces that they sell
Right.
you for this.
So we'll put it in one category, although there might be a difference between them, but we'll put it in one category. So that's a Shulchan Aruch in Seif Tet. Okay, Kli Rishon, as long as it's hot, more than Yad Soledet Bo. What it is a question. We won't go into it. 45 degrees, 50 something, 70 something degrees. One of my friends, he made once an experiment in the class. He took a sous vide. Okay, sous vide. Sous vide, you know what the sous vide is? So it's like a cooking instrument. It's for low temperatures, and it's a stable, constant, stable temperature. So if you want to cook meat for 20 hours, for example, it's a kind of slow cook. The temperature is exact, it's accurate. Okay, if you set it on 60 degrees, it will stay 60 degrees. Okay, so he did it a few degrees and told the students, put your hand inside the water to see how long it can keep the hand in the water. So for 40 degrees, they were able to keep the hand in the water. For 50 degrees, no problem. But they couldn't leave the hand in the water for too long. And then so on. So to try and measure the Yad Soledet Bo. Okay, so that's the okay, so
Is Yatzalet like an instant type thing?
that's a question. What does it mean Soledet exactly?
Or
You
can
escape it. So
or-
that's when we have an argument about 20, at least 20 degrees difference between the different opinions of defining Yad Soledet Bo. And the most stringent opinion is about 45 degrees.
And sometimes it's subjective, could be the person.
Yeah, but 45 degrees is like more quite accurate. Everything in Chazal, all the measurements in Chazal have a subjective aspect to it because not everyone had an option to measure an exact kazait. The Chazal tried to have the most objective and accurate measurements as possible in those days. And so that's Kli Rishon. What about pouring from Kli Rishon on something else? Okay, not the Kli, the pouring itself. Irui, what we call in the halacha, irui. Does irui cook or no? I have a Kli Rishon. I have a kettle of water. I open the tap, right? So I have the urn. I open the tap. The water that comes out before it rests in the cup, that's called irui mikli rishon, pouring from kli rishon. We have three opinions in the Rishonim, and because of the time, we won't go into all the opinions. But the Shulchan Aruch paskins that it cooks. Okay, it does cook. Okay, like a kli rishon, not exactly like a kli rishon. It cooks maybe only a bit, only the outside. Okay, only the outside. So irui mikli rishon, the common psak is, although we have two other opinions, it cooks, but only a bit, only the outside of the food. Okay, which makes sense. If you take a piece of breast meat, okay, chicken breast, okay, which cooks relatively fast, not super fast, but relatively fast. For all the chefs here, what's the best way to ruin chicken breast? Cook it for too long, right? To dry it out, right? It cooks relatively fast. You pour on it boiling water. The same for salmon or other fish. What happens to the outside of it? a very thin layer. Okay,
Sears.
it's sears, which is like a kind of cooking. It's a very thin layer, but it does cook. So we poskin that irui mikli rishon, water we pour from a kli rishon, cooks at least a bit. So before we go to all of the further details, does tea, if I take tea in a kli rishon, can I put a tea in kli rishon? No, not good. What about irui mikli rishon, which means take the tea bag inside the cup and pour from the urn right on the tea bag? Also a problem, right? That's also a problem. What about a kli sheni? So typically we say that kli sheni doesn't cook. Kli sheni does not cook.
Whose house are you reading? In his house.
I got confused.
What?
The cliche is, well, the poured water comes from the earth.
No, so
The
the urn
result,
itself,
the result.
that's the kli rishon. When you pour from the urn, the water that's coming out,
Where's it going?
it's still in the air before it goes into the cup. That's called irui mikli rishon, pouring from a kli rishon.
Where does that?
That goes to a kli sheni. It goes to a cup. That's called kli sheni. As soon as it's in the cup and I finished pouring, that's called kli sheni. Okay. So we can't make tea in that, but we'll see in a moment how do we make tea. So just to define, kli rishon. Why is the kli rishon the water so hot? You cooked it in the, even if you took it off the fire, it just the pot itself is hot, which means the walls or the pot itself keeps the temperature, and also we don't have anything which cools it down. Okay, in a kli sheni, in a kli sheni, what do we have? There's nothing keeping it warm, and also something is now cooling it down. With irui, what do we have? From kli rishon.
Still have.
So nothing cooling it down, but also nothing keeping it warm. Okay, so that's the in-between case. Okay, so that's the way Tosfot defines it. Okay, we have something, that's Tosfot defines it. Kli sheni, usually we say that kli sheni does not cook. Okay, kli sheni does not cook. If we end the shiur here, what would you say? Can you make tea in a kli sheni? Yes, okay, if we end the shiur here, but we aren't ending the shiur here. Okay, oops, we have Avrit. I know. The shiur is continuing, okay? And that's, now see, I'm going back to Seif Hey. Seif Dalit, sorry.
The reality is the temperature between the kli rishon and kli sheni is minimal.
So that's a question. That's a great question. Because we'll
It also depends on what the material is. Like if the kli sheni is a metal kli sheni, I would imagine it holds the heat.
So
it'll heat up and hold the heat more than
it transfers the heat, right? Today, if you use a paper cup, it's true. There's hardly any difference in the temperature. If you use a pot, some kind of pottery, there is quite a big of difference in temperature. Okay, quite serious. And there's also another aspect. What is the normal way of cooking?
on the fire.
What's the normal on the fire? Sometimes the normal way of cooking is take it off the fire. For example, rice noodles. Okay, rice noodles. I think they're called, right? Those that tie longer. How do you cook them? Many will just pour hot water on it. Okay, be irui.
It's like the manachama type.
The manachama is already even cooked, so that's it's an instant thing. So that's you might, according to some poskim, you can even make it on Shabbat because it's cooked already. But it's bulgur. Some people cook it really on the fire, and some will boil the water and pour the bulgur inside it. Okay, but kli sheni, you don't really cook in a kli sheni.
It's like instant oats also.
But it's instant. Instant oats are rolled already, and they're kind of cooked, okay, steamed or something. They were processed with something. So that's when we talked about brachot. We said maybe the bracha is mizanot because they maybe were cooked already. In the kli shlishi, does anyone here cook with a kli shlishi? No. Okay, so quite a serious idea of svara for kli shlishi being permitted is who cooks like that? No one. It's as soon as I move something from one cup to another cup and then to a third cup, I showed already that I'm not cooking. I'm drinking tea. I'm not. It's not the way of cooking. Sometimes we have in Shabbat shinui. Shinui is asur midrabanan, right? The rabbis forbid shinui. But when I do a big shinui, such a big shinui, moving from one cup and then to another cup, that's not the way of cooking at all. That might be permitted. That's one way to explain why kli shlishi is permitted. Okay, before we get to is kli shlishi always permitted, let's learn two more halachot. So first, let's start from
Kind of mustard. Kind of, but it seems that eating is that Coach Shlishi is really the halacha and Coach Sheni is not.
we'll get to it. Okay, can you make tea in a kli sheni? And if you want to make the bottom line, Ashkenazim for sure. Tea you can't make in a kli sheni. You can't make tea in a kli sheni. Kli shlishi, we have a question. Can you make tea in a kli shlishi or no? But
Uncle Moishe says, eat no cooking in kli shlishi.
okay.
No, Uncle Moishe? Were you in
Yeah.
the-
No, conversation. So I'm going to save here and then we'll go to save Dalid. Here we have a very, very got the right save, 1 second. Yeah. Interesting machloket. I'm sure you're familiar with the halacha of ein bishul, achar bishul. Right? You familiar? What does the halacha mean? Ein bishul, achar bishul?
After something is already cooked, you can't,
There's no cook it
the
again.
next,
Yeah.
whatever you do, you can't cook it.
There's no meaning for a second cook. After it's cooked, there's no meaning for a second cook. I take potatoes, put it inside boiling water, cook it for 2 hours, maybe less, okay, for an hour. It's cooked now, right? Can I put it now on Shabbat inside boiling water again? I have boiling water. Can I take the potato and put it inside the boiling water? Yeah, it's cooked.
Because it's solid though.
Right, because it's solid. Okay, because it's solid. We
Yeah.
last week we talked about liquids. Okay, so last week we talked about with solids, we have the rule ein bishul achar bishul. If I cook something already, I can cook it again. Okay. There's an interesting opinion. The Shulchan Aruch brings that. The Shulchan Aruch himself does not paskin like this. But seems like the Rama is a bit choshesh to it. Okay. I'll read it inside. Let's read it inside. It's in Seif Hey. Yesh mi sheomer, some who say, it's Rabbi Eliezer Mimitz. The davar shene'efar or nitzla, something which was baked or roasted. Okay, roasted, barbecued, roasted, which means liquid or without liquid. Baked is, by definition, without liquid. Roasted, by definition, or barbecued is grilled without liquid. So I cooked something without liquid, baked it, okay? אם בשלו אחר כך במשקה, if afterwards you put it with liquids, יש בו משום בישול. It's still considered cooking. What's the logic of it?
Cooking in the liquid.
You bring the liquid in, the liquid moves flavor differently, it softens it in a different way. Okay, like we know liquid does different things than cooking in roasting something, right? That's everyone knows that, everyone who cooks. So on one hand, roasted meat is cooked, you can eat it. On the other hand, if I cook it with liquid, obviously now something changes, right? When I used to be a child, I used to make a lot of liver. It's a headache to make a liver, so you have to have a special net, and so as kids we had more time to do it. And after you make the liver, we used to fry it with onions and things like that. So it's cooked, fully cooked, but still obviously adding more things. It changes the flavor, right? So says the Shulchan Aruch, he brings the opinion that of the idea of yesh bishul achar or en bishul achar bishul, there's no cooking after cooking, applies only to cooking after cooking. But there is such a thing, or it's forbidden to cook after I roast. Very soon we'll see why it's so important for tea and coffee. And then the Shulchan Aruch says yesh materim, and it seems like he's posking like a materim. Do you drink black coffee? You don't drink black coffee? Do you drink filtered coffee? You're British. Okay, fine. I can understand that. What kind of coffee do you drink? No coffee? What?
Make a vote.
So what? Instant
drip,
coffee.
It makes a drip.
Instant coffee. So instant coffee is cooked already. But black coffee? What about black coffee?
You mean
Or Turkish? What do you call Turkish coffee? ground coffee. Okay,
So.
ground coffee. Okay, ground
So we
coffee.
take ground coffee, we take beans that are ground up for us, we put it through a drip coffee maker. But you just said Turkish coffee, and it's very interesting because we got a bag of Turkish coffee as a present. And I said to one of the guys in the gym who had a bag with him, I said, what do you do with this? I have this sitting in my house and I don't know what to do with it. I haven't opened it. He says to me, you just put it in a cup and you pour water over
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I never knew that. I thought there was whatever. So you're making that like as if it was instant coffee.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not instant coffee. Well, it's the same idea of filtered coffee. Okay, black coffee or Turkish
You have
coffee.
to hope that the stuff will.
You're cooking these grounds.
You cook in the grounds with hot water, right?
At the bottom that
Yeah.
you're not drinking.
They stick to the bottom.
ground.
Afterwards, you can do a
now
class
I
about
know
how
that.
to make black coffee.
No,
Not in the nighttime, otherwise I guess some of us will not sleep. But you cook it, and then the ones who know, like, they'll take the cup and like hold it like this and let the water.
We do take ground up raw beans and we put them through a
So
filter.
are the beans raw?
Oh,
are the
they're
beans-
roasted.
They're roasted. Okay, is that called cooked, roasted? No, I mean maybe yes. They're roasted. Okay, it's like ne'efa. According to Shulchan Aruch, can you take hot water from a clear rishon, pour it on the ground coffee? They're roasted already, so they're cooked. They're already cooked. Okay,
But we
But-
don't.
we don't. Why? Because the Rama is more machmir. Okay, but according to the Sfardim, if you want to have black coffee, Turkish coffee on Shabbat, don't ask an Ashkenazi person to make it for you. Okay, don't ask. Some will say, never ask an Ashkenazi coffee. But I'm not going to that.
Can I drink such
Yes.
coffee that it's already
Yes,
made for me?
if he makes it for you, you can drink it. Why?
Or if
Because
he makes it and it's not for me, but if he
even
makes it specific
some
for me.
poskim will say, even if you can even ask him to make it for you. Some poskim will say.
Wow.
And why? Because for him, it's really permitted. For him, it's really permitted to make it. You aren't asking him to do something which is forbidden. He is really permitted to do it. All right. So in the shiva, it was very common to ask a friend, can you make for me please some coffee? But you don't say to him to make it. But for him, it's permitted. And some will argue, but and why are they making? Why are they more lenient? Because the coffee beans are already roasted. And according to the Shulchan Aruch, he brings the other opinion, but according to the Shulchan Aruch, as soon as something is roasted, there's no more cooking in it. Okay, you can cook it on Shabbat. Okay, so I want to put it right inside the Kli Rishon. Okay, I take the urn, I want to put it inside the urn. Okay.
Why inside the urn?
The coffee, grounded coffee.
The roasted beans that have been
Yeah.
ground up.
It looks as if you're cooking it, okay, not inside the Kli Rishon. You can pour from the urn on the powder.
If I put it in.
Put it in the cup and then pour from the urn. Ashkenazim will do it in a Kli Shlishi. People who like Turkish coffee will say, Kli Shlishi doesn't taste nice. Okay, that's the problem.
So if I put Turkish coffee, even when we make instant coffee, though, we add the coffee to the water.
Right, just so it doesn't look like cooking. Okay,
Or
so
that we don't change the essence of what the
also some will say because of color.
And we're adding,
Yeah.
as opposed to if we pour water over the instant coffee, we're changing the essence of what's in the cup. If we put instant coffee into the water, the essence is the water.
Also, the essence. You're talking about the essence.
I don't mean I didn't.
The
I used
powder.
the word wrong.
The powder. Essence is something else. Essence is something else.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
The powder.
Yeah. The bar smoke.
So it doesn't look like cooking. Okay, that's why it doesn't look like cooking. It's cooked already, but it doesn't look like cooking.
So are you telling me even as an Ashkenazi? I'm asking because I don't know. I didn't know anything about Turkish coffee until the other day. So so the way we make instant coffee here is that we put the water in and then we add the coffee. So if I want to make Turkish coffee that way, I can do that also.
No, Sephardi will do it that way. Ashkenazi will do it in the Kli Shlishi, in the third cup.
That's what I'm saying.
In the Kli Shlishi. Okay. Instant coffee is cooked already.
And I would still have to put in the water first.
Yeah.
Because that's the way we
right.
use the Kli Shlishi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's and some argue with it. Also, some Ashkenazim argue with it. I'll tell you for myself. I think you can do it with Kli Sheni, lehalacha. Okay, like the Sfaradim.
Even though you're Ashkenazi.
Yeah, but I don't do it
Because
I follow like the Ashkenazi halacha. Okay, so when you're learning the Bet Midrash, when it's not a recorded shiur, I'll say to you, obviously you can do it in a Kli Shani, no problem
and
at
you
all.
would put the
But I will
water-
not do it Lemaaseh.
I'm just trying to get this down. And you would do it the way of putting the water in the cup first.
Yeah,
And then adding
yeah,
even the Turkish coffee.
yeah. Or maybe even put it, yeah.
Maybe what?
Yeah. I'll first put the water and then the coffee.
When I said kosheni, I was really talking about.
Kli Shlishi, yeah.
I make the tea in the third.
The third cup, right. Yeah. Okay, let's get to tea.
Take
Let's
everything
get to
you
tea.
say literally. so
No,
I'm
let's
very
do
careful.
no, but when I make Turkish coffee, I do it the Kli Shlishi. Okay?
By putting the water in first.
Yeah,
still.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay? When in Bet Midrash and talking in Iyun and Imud, so I'll say Kli Shani, but otherwise for halacha, I'll be like the rest of the Ashkenazim, Kli. But we aren't going into depth of it now to define Tavlin. And we want... Okay, now we're going to save diet, and that brings us to tea. We say that Kli Rishon obviously is forbidden.
And now we're going back to.
Kli Shani say it's permitted, right? And here now we are coming to a new definition. Something called in halacha kalei bishul. Kalei bishul, or in English, something which is very easy to cook. Okay? And the Gemara and also kalei bishul, it cooks very, very easily. Right? Yeah.
Like itriot.
Etriot, no, that's pasta. Does take time to cook.
No, if you have like the really thin itriot.
Like those ones, yeah. Like the rice noodles,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example. And they bring here in that was cooked actually beforehand. So it's,
those are
I think I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not sure. Okay. But the Shulchan Aruch and based on the Gemara brings something which I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it looks like kind of smoked fish, maliach hayashan, an old kind of. The Mishnah Berurah says dag maluach sheshana shavra, herring which was already a year old. So I guess it's so soft and so just rinsing it with water that already cooks it. You know, I never had such a thing, so I don't know how it is, but that's what the halacha says. But we have here something which is called kalei bishul. It's so easy to cook, and pouring in it hot water, that already cooks it. That's gemar melachtan, and that is forbidden on Shabbat. And the Rama continues, he expands it, not just those kinds of fish, anything which wasn't edible beforehand, and you pour in it as hot water, or put it inside hot water, soak it in hot water, that's forbidden on Shabbat. And that brings us the big question of tea. So according to the Rama, it's not just that kind of fish, it's everything, including tea. So you can't cook tea in a Kli Shani. Okay? No tea in Kli Shani. Because it's very solid, it's no tea in Kli Shani. What about Kli Shlishi? Okay, there's actually two questions here. First question is, how do we consider Kalei Bishul? Are we scared that everything is Kalei Bishul? Maybe only things which are mentioned in the Gemara? Yeah, so we know, okay, bread cooks very fast.
No, but if you were to pour water over a potato, you're not going to.
So potato for sure isn't.
Not going to change a
yeah.
potato.
So the question is, when we have a question about things, do we say like it's by definition it's kalei bishul, unless I know otherwise, or the opposite? By definition, it's fine unless I know otherwise. So that's the argument we have here. That's the first argument we have. The second argument we have is kalei bishul in a kli shlishi. Is it a problem or no? In Kli Shani, for sure there's a problem. But Kli Shlishi, it's only the third Kli, okay? Is it also a problem there or no? So let's go to the first argument. Obviously, we have an argument. Okay, the Magen Avraham says everything by default is Kalei Bishul, unless we know otherwise. The Chazon Ish has something in the middle. Only if we see it cooks fast. But if we don't see it, if we don't know, so it's fine. And the Tfilah Moshe, he's even more lenient. He says only things which are mentioned in the Gemara or Poskim, which are known to be Kalei Bishul, only they are Kalei Bishul. Is tea mentioned in the Gemara? No. Right? So according to the Magen Avraham, he's the most stringent. Maybe a problem. According to Tfilah Moshe, he's the most lenient. It's not considered Kalei Bishul, so it's not Kalei Bishul. That's according to the so first we have a question, is tea Kalei Bishul or no? Okay. Now we do see that tea does very fast change the color of the water, add flavor. Okay, and it's a question. Okay, it's a question. Is that called bishul or no? What's exactly happening here? There's a cold brew. Also for coffee, there's a cold brew, right? So have you ever had coffee with a cold brew?
Yes.
Yeah, you
Oh,
leave it
but they
inside
make-
the water for 24 hours or 12 hours. And so there's a question about it. Exactly, we won't go into it now just because of the time. The second argument we have, what about kli shlishi with kalei bishul? Okay, is kli shlishi with kalei bishul a problem or no? So the Pri Megadim,
The same changes that would happen in a Kli Rishon will also happen in a Kli Shlishi with those tea leaves.
that says they got, we'll get very soon to the Igros Moshe, very, very soon. I think it's Igros Moshe. Some hold that doesn't matter, Kli Rishon, Kli Shani, Kli Shlishi, Kli Revi, I don't care. If it's Kalei Bishul, okay, it still cooks. What do I care? How many times you moved it? That's the Pri Megadim. Sorry, that's the Chazon Ish. And he's very stringent. You moved it a few times, it's still hot. The tea still cooks. It cooks, okay? Pri Megadim is more lenient. It says no, only in Kli Shani. After Kli Shlishi, that's already fine. One of the svarat is makes sense. It's such a shinu. I'm showing that I'm not trying to cook. The fact I'm pouring from cup to cup. What am I showing? Why am I doing it? Because I don't want to cook. I want the water to cool down. That's not called cooking. Okay. So based on those arguments, some will say tea bags are very kalei bishul, and very, very fast they change the taste of the water. And kalei bishul, even a kli shlishi will be a problem. Okay, even kli shlishi will be a problem. So you can't make tea on Shabbat from tea bags. Okay, that's a very common paskin in some of the Ashkenazi paskin. Even in kli shlishi. Okay, very soon we'll say how they cook, how they make tea. The Igrot Moshe says, okay, by definition, kli shani cooks or might cook. Kli shlishi, by definition, doesn't cook. The definition according of cooking, it's not just of temperature. It's also halachically. Halachically, we see, like Shabbat. What did they do in the Mishkan? In the Mishkan, did they use the kli shlishi to cook? No. Okay. So maybe kli shani is okay. By definition, kli shlishi doesn't cook. That's it. Okay. So you can make kli shlishi. You can make tea inside kli shlishi, and he says, take a tea bag, put it in tap water. Okay, it's the temperature, room temperature water. What will happen after an hour?
Eventually.
Get the color. Okay, so you can see it. So it's not the heat that does it. It's just the water that does it. That's the Igrot
Well,
Moshe.
it will speed up the process.
He will speed it up. That's not called cooking. Cooking is when the leaves soften. You can eat them maybe. That's not called cooking. So according to the Igrot Moshe, finish in just a moment. You can make tea bags in a kli shlishi. No problem. Tea in a kli shlishi. That's many Ashkenazi poskim. According to the ones who say you can't make tea in a kli shlishi, they'll make essence beforehand. Make sure the essence is hot. Okay, for sure. They'll keep it warm. Okay, so they can put it inside hot water. If the essence isn't warm, they'll make sure they put the essence inside the kli shani or kli shlishi. Okay, okay. So we'll end here, and till next Bezrat Hashem. What is